The warning. Admiral Susan Wright stared at the message on her screen. Her fingers trembled slightly as she read it again. After 30 years in the Navy, very little surprised her anymore. This message did. Confirm authenticity, she ordered her assistant. Confirmed, Admiral. It came through all verified channels. The President expects you in Washington by morning. Susan closed her eyes for a moment. The message was real. After decades of searching the stars, humanity had finally received a response, but not the one anyone had hoped for. 12 hours later, Susan sat at a large table in the White House Situation Room. Around her were the leaders of major world powers, all looking equally concerned. President Garcia entered, and the room fell silent. "I assume you've all read the communication," he said. "The Galactic Council has made contact, and they are not pleased with us." The large screen on the wall flickered to life, showing the translated message. "To the governing bodies of Earth, your rapid technological advancement has been deemed dangerously destabilizing to the galactic order. The Council requires immediate cessation of all deep space exploration and weapons development. Representatives will arrive to ensure compliance." "They can't just demand we stop progress," said the British Prime Minister. "We've barely started exploring our own solar system." The Chinese president leaned forward. "The message mentions representatives arriving." "When?" As if answering her question, an aide rushed into the room. "Mr. President, we're tracking multiple objects entering the atmosphere. They're slowing down, not burning up." Everyone moved to the windows. In the distance, 5 gleaming ships descended through the clouds, graceful and silent. Each was shaped like a perfect oval, with no visible engines or windows. They hovered over the National Mall, casting long shadows over the monuments. "Estimated size of the largest vessel is 300 meters, said the Defense Secretary. "Our jets are standing by." "But..." "No," said President Garcia. "We don't start a war we can't win. Admiral Wright, I want you to assemble a welcome team. Captain Henry Mills from NASA will be your liaison officer." 3 hours later, Susan stood on the lawn with Captain Mills beside her. He was younger than she expected, maybe mid-30s, with steady eyes and a calm demeanor. "Ever made first contact before, Captain?" Susan asked. Henry smiled slightly. "Can't say that was covered at the Academy, Admiral." A beam of light shot down from the largest ship, and where it touched the ground, 3 figures appeared. They were tall and slender, with silvery skin that reflected the sunlight. Their faces had features similar to humans, but everything was slightly elongated, more angular. The central figure stepped forward. "I am Ambassador Skatal of the Galactic Council. We have monitored your civilization for centuries. Your recent technological leaps have triggered intervention protocols." Susan stepped forward. "I am Admiral Wright. We welcome peaceful contact with other civilizations." The ambassador's expression didn't change. "This is not a cultural exchange, Admiral. Earth has developed too quickly in unpredictable patterns. The Council has determined your species requires supervision." Whispers erupted from the human delegation. Henry stepped forward. "With respect, Ambassador, humanity has rights to develop its own path. A common sentiment among young species," said Skatal. "One you will abandon when you understand the realities of galactic politics. The Council has voted unanimously. Earth will halt all space exploration beyond your moon, dismantle military satellites, and accept Council oversight. You have 30 days to begin compliance." News spread quickly. Protests filled streets worldwide. Military forces went on high alert. Susan watched global reactions from the Pentagon as experts analyzed every word from the Council. "They're afraid of us," Henry said quietly, standing beside her. "Something about humanity scares them." Susan nodded. "The question is, Captain Mills, what do we do about it?" "History suggests humans don't respond well to ultimatums," Henry replied. Susan looked at the ship still hovering over Washington. "No," she said firmly. "We never have." Lieutenant Alice Parker walked quickly through the embassy hallway. Datapad clutched tightly against her chest. The building, once the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum, had been repurposed to house the council delegation. 3 weeks had passed since their arrival, and time was running out. She paused outside the main conference room, hearing raised voices within. Earth's diplomatic team was meeting with Ambassador Skull again, trying to negotiate better terms. Alice slipped inside, catching Admiral Wright's eye, and nodding slightly. The Admiral acknowledged her with a subtle hand gesture. Your historical records show 17 civilizations that advanced too quickly, said United Nations Secretary Dias. Yet none of those cases resulted in catastrophe. Why is Earth different? Ambassador Skatal's silver face remained impassive. Each situation is unique. The Council's judgment is final. Alice took her place along the wall, studying the alien delegates. After countless hours reviewing their transmissions, she had discovered something important. Their records contained inconsistencies about Earth's history, and their translation matrix seemed programmed to emphasize threat narratives. Across town, scientist Peter Johnson peered through a microscope at a sample taken from a piece of Council technology. The sliver of metal had been carefully collected from one of their shuttlecrafts during a diplomatic exchange. What he found was remarkable. The molecular structure changes when exposed to specific frequencies, he told his colleague. If I'm right, their entire defense system might be vulnerable to targeted sonic pulses. Peter's lab was one of dozens working around the clock. While diplomats talked, Earth prepared. At the embassy, Captain Henry Mills had been assigned as the Council's guide on Earth. The role was a cover. His real mission was intelligence gathering. He had managed to form a cautious relationship with a junior council aide named Elixa, who seemed more curious about humans than her superiors. Your species adapts so quickly, Elixa commented as they walked through the National Mall. Most take centuries to adjust to new environments. Henry nodded casually. We've had to adapt to survive. Perhaps that is what concerns the Council, she said quietly. Later that evening, Alice met with Admiral Wright and Captain Mills in a secure room beneath the Pentagon. Their records don't match, Alice explained, spreading documents on the table. They claim to have observed Earth for centuries, but their historical data has significant gaps, and some dates are completely wrong. They're lying about something, Henry added. The junior aide let slip that not all council members voted on the Earth measure. This wasn't unanimous. Admiral Wright frowned. The question is why. What do they really want from us? In Geneva, world leaders gathered secretly to decide Earth's response. The Council's deadline loomed just 9 days away. We could comply temporarily, suggested one leader. Buy time while building our defenses. And if they detect our deception, asked another. President Garcia stood. All evidence suggests the Council wants something from Earth, resources, perhaps, or strategic position. They're using our supposed dangerous advancement as a pretext. The vote was unanimous. Earth would appear to comply while secretly preparing for resistance. The next morning, Henry guided Elixa through the Kennedy Space Center. As you can see, he said, gesturing to workers dismantling rocket components, we're complying with Council directives. What he didn't show her were the underground facilities where those same components were being reassembled with new modifications based on Peter Johnson's research. Alice continued analyzing Council communications, discovering patterns that suggested they were already planning long-term occupation of Earth. She encrypted her findings and sent them to Admiral Wright. 30 days, Skatal announced at the final meeting. You will be given 30 days to demonstrate complete compliance before the Council sends inspectors. Admiral Wright nodded respectfully. We understand. As the aliens departed, she exchanged glances with Henry and Alice. 30 days was all they needed. Far below the surface of Montana, Dr. Laura Wilson stood in a massive underground chamber. The facility had been built decades ago as a missile silo, then abandoned. Now it hummed with activity as scientists and engineers worked around the clock. Status report, Laura said, tucking a strand of blonde hair behind her ear. Engineer Frank Gardner looked up from his workstation. His hands were stained with grease and his eyes showed fatigue from working 30 hours straight. "The propulsion system works," he said. "We've managed to incorporate the Council technology that Peter Johnson sent us. It's like nothing we've ever built before." Laura nodded and looked at the massive engine component before them. It glowed with a faint blue light, despite not being activated. "Will it get them there and back?" she asked. "Faster than anything humans have ever created," Frank replied. "If our calculations are correct, it's 10 times more efficient than the Council ships." Above ground, Council surveillance satellites monitored Earth's apparent compliance. Space launch facilities were being dismantled. Military satellites were being deorbited. To any outside observer, humanity was surrendering. But 200 meters below the lunar surface, another story was unfolding. 3 sleek ships took shape in the hidden shipyard. Built using materials mined from the moon itself, they would leave no supply chain for the Council to track. Each vessel was designed based on the weaknesses Peter Johnson had discovered in Council technology. Captain Henry Mills transmitted his latest intelligence report from Washington. The Council representatives were growing comfortable, convinced of their dominance. They had started removing some of their monitoring equipment, believing Earth was thoroughly cowed. "They're getting careless," Henry noted in his encrypted message. Ambassador Skutal mentioned something about preliminary extraction assessments to his staff. "I don't think they're here just to stop our advancement." Laura received the message in her underground office. She immediately called a meeting with her team leaders. "We've suspected all along that their motives weren't purely about preventing our technological growth," she told them. "Now we have confirmation they're planning to take something from Earth." "Minerals? Water? Biological samples?" asked one of her scientists. "Unknown," Laura replied, "but it explains their timeline. 30 days to assess our compliance, then the arrival of inspectors, who I suspect will actually be surveyors for whatever they plan to extract." Frank spoke up. "The defensive shields are ready. We've built them based on the frequency vulnerabilities Peter discovered." Laura nodded. "Install them on all 3 ships. We need to be ready to launch at a moment's notice." Meanwhile, governments around the world put on an elaborate show of compliance. NASA announced the indefinite suspension of all deep space missions. The International Space Station was evacuated. Military satellites were replaced with civilian models that appeared harmless but contained hidden capabilities. In Washington, Admiral Wright met with President Garcia in the White House bunker. "The Montana facility reports they're ahead of schedule," she said. "The lunar construction is almost complete." The president looked at the plans spread across the table. "And the defense grid, being installed in key locations worldwide. If the Council attempts a forced landing anywhere on Earth, they'll meet resistance." "What about Captain Mills? Is his cover intact?" Admiral Wright nodded. "He's gained valuable intelligence. The Council believes him to be a harmless tour guide with no real access to sensitive information." At that moment, Henry was walking with Elixa near the Lincoln Memorial. "Your people are quite cooperative," she observed. "Most species resist much longer." Henry shrugged. "We're practical. We know when we're outmatched." Elixa studied his face. "I hope, for your sake, that is true." On the moon, the first prototype ship powered up its engines. The test was silent in the vacuum, but instruments recorded perfect functionality. Laura received the report and smiled for the first time in weeks. "Tell the crew to prepare. We launch in 7 days." Commander Olivia Martinez walked down the line of pilots, studying each face carefully. They had been chosen from space programs around the world, the best of the best, and brought to this hidden facility beneath the Arctic ice. None of them knew why they were here until today. "You've all signed the security agreements," she said. "What you see today does not exist. What we ask you to do has never happened." She pressed a button, and the massive wall behind her became transparent, revealing an enormous hangar. Inside sat 3 sleek spacecraft unlike anything the pilots had ever seen. They were shaped like arrowheads, with smooth black surfaces that seemed to absorb light. These are humanity's response to the Council ultimatum, Olivia continued. Project Defiance. 3 ships, named Resolution, Resistance, and Liberty. The pilots stared in amazement. But the space program was shut down. One woman said, "We've been complying with the Council demands." Olivia smiled. That's what they think. Meanwhile, resistance cells have been organizing worldwide. Across the globe, in 27 countries, similar briefings were taking place. Scientists, soldiers, and civilians were being recruited into a network to support Earth's defense. They established hidden communication systems, stockpiled supplies, and prepared emergency protocols. In Washington, Captain Henry Mills received a coded message from Admiral Wright. The launch was scheduled. His job now was to ensure the Council remained unaware for as long as possible. He watched as Council technicians removed monitoring equipment from Earth orbit. They believed their show of force had worked. The compliance period has been satisfactory. Ambassador Skutall told world leaders at a public address. The Council will now reduce its monitoring presence as a show of good faith. What the ambassador didn't say was that the monitoring equipment was being replaced with more sophisticated technology, hidden in what appeared to be debris. But Dr. Laura Wilson had anticipated this. Her team had developed detection systems specifically designed to locate Council technology. As each new piece was deployed, Earth's resistance identified and tracked it. In her underground lab, Laura supervised final testing on their revolutionary shield technology. Based on Peter Johnson's discovery of Council weaknesses, it could theoretically neutralize their most powerful weapons. Will it work? Frank asked, standing beside her. Laura watched the simulation complete successfully. It has too. At the Arctic facility, the chosen pilots began intensive training in simulators. The ships they would fly combined human intuition with Council-derived technology. If they succeeded, they would prove humanity could not be so easily contained. If they failed, Commander Martinez didn't dwell on failure. She focused on preparing her pilots for every possible scenario. The Council believes we've given up, she told them during a briefing. That's our advantage. When we launch, we'll have perhaps 12 minutes before they realize what's happening. In Washington, Henry was having dinner with Elixa when his communicator vibrated silently in his pocket. The signal. A Council ship had detected unusual activity near the lunar surface. Is everything all right? Elixa asked, noticing his momentary distraction. Just tired, Henry replied with a practiced smile. Tell me more about your homeworld. As she spoke, Henry sent a coded warning to Admiral Wright. Their timeline might need to accelerate. That night, a small group of human sympathizers within a research facility sent a message to the Council. They had discovered signs of secret human activity and suspected non-compliance with the ultimatum. Ambassador Skutall received the report with narrowed eyes. Prepare the enforcement fleet, he ordered. We will conduct a full inspection immediately. Unaware of the betrayal, Dr. Wilson gave final approval for launch preparations. The 3 ships were fueled and armed. The pilots were ready. Commander Martinez addressed her team one last time. Tomorrow, we show the Council that humans never listen to warnings when our freedom is at stake. The resistance was ready. The countdown had begun. Alarms blared through the Arctic facility. Commander Olivia Martinez ran to the control room, pulling her flight suit on as she moved. Status report, she shouted. Council fleet just appeared in Earth orbit, the communications officer said. At least 12 ships. They're not scheduled to return for another week. Olivia grabbed the secure line to Montana. Dr. Wilson, they're back early. We need to launch now. In her underground facility, Laura received the message with grim determination. They must have discovered something. Activate the planetary defense grid. All ships launch immediately. Across Earth, hidden installations powered up. Defensive systems designed to counter Council weapons came online, disguised as power plants, communications towers, and ordinary buildings. In Washington, Captain Henry Mills was in the middle of a tour with council representatives when security forces suddenly surrounded him. "Captain Henry Mills, you are detained for questioning," said a council security officer. The aliens had moved with unexpected speed. "What's happening?" Henry asked, maintaining his cover. Ambassador Skatal approached, his silver face tight with anger. "Our sensors detected unauthorized activity at your lunar base. You have violated the terms of our agreement." Henry kept his expression neutral even as his mind raced. The council had discovered their secret shipyard, but they didn't yet know about the Arctic launch facility. There was still hope. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said calmly. "I'm just a liaison officer." "Take him for examination," Skatal ordered. 2 guards seized Henry's arms. Beneath the Arctic ice, Olivia addressed her pilots. "This is not a drill. The council has returned ahead of schedule. We launch now." The pilots rushed to their ships. There would be no time for final checks or hesitation. Primary mission: engage council forces near Mars orbit. Draw them away from Earth. Olivia continued as she climbed into the command seat of the Resolution. Secondary mission: test their defensive capabilities. Dr. Wilson needs combat data. The massive doors above the facility slid open, revealing the night sky. Snow swirled down into the launch bay. "All ships, prepare for immediate launch," Olivia ordered. The 3 ships rose silently from the hidden base, their revolutionary engines leaving no heat signature to detect. They accelerated rapidly, breaking through the atmosphere in under 60 seconds. In orbit, council ships detected the launch too late. By the time they turned their weapons toward the Arctic, the human vessels were already beyond the moon. "Impossible," muttered Ambassador Skatal when the report reached him. "Their technology is primitive." The Council fleet commander signaled urgently from orbit. "The human ships are not primitive. They appear to incorporate Council technology. We must pursue immediately." In the Montana facility, Laura monitored the situation. "They took the bait," she told Frank. 8 Council ships are moving to intercept our fleet. That leaves only 4 in Earth orbit. Enough to do serious damage, Frank noted grimly. Laura nodded. "That's where our defense grid comes in. Activate all stations." Across Earth, hidden defense platforms powered up, creating an invisible shield above the atmosphere. Near Mars orbit, Olivia saw the Council pursuit fleet approaching on her scanners. "This is it," she told her pilots. "Formation Delta. Remember your training." The 3 human ships spread out, executing a complex maneuver that confused the Council targeting systems. "They're firing," warned the pilot of Liberty. Bright energy beams lanced toward them, but the shields based on Peter Johnson's research held firm. "Return fire," Olivia ordered. "Let's see what these ships can do." The human vessels fired their own weapons, modified versions of Council technology. The lead Council ship's shields flickered and failed. On Earth, Henry was taken to a detention cell aboard the main Council vessel. As guards prepared interrogation equipment, he felt the ship suddenly lurch. "What was that?" one guard asked. Henry smiled slightly. The defense grid had engaged. Near Mars, the battle intensified. 2 Council ships were disabled, their systems overloaded by weapons they never expected humans to possess. "We've bloodied their nose," Olivia reported back to Earth. "But they're regrouping." News of the space battle spread rapidly among humans worldwide. In secret bunkers and hidden facilities, resistance members cheered. The first strike had succeeded. Humanity had declared its defiance. The main Council ship shuddered as Earth's defense grid disrupted its systems. Captain Henry Mills felt the vibration in his cell and smiled. His captors looked worried, speaking rapidly in their native language. A sudden explosion rocked the vessel. The guard nearest Henry was thrown against the wall, dropping his weapon. Henry didn't hesitate. He grabbed the strange device and pointed it at the second guard. "Open the door," he commanded. The alien hesitated, then complied. As Henry stepped into the corridor, Alarms blared throughout the ship. "This is not just about your non-compliance," a voice said from behind him. Henry turned to see Elixa standing there, unafraid. "I can help you escape." Henry kept the weapon raised. "Why would you help me?" "Because the Council lied," she replied. "Not just to you, but to many worlds. Earth is not the first to resist, only the most successful so far." Meanwhile, on the Resolution, Commander Olivia Martinez was shocked when 3 unknown ships appeared near their position. These vessels were unlike the Council ships. They were smaller, more organic in design, with flowing lines that reminded her of ocean creatures. "Human vessels, this is Captain Krell of the Ardani Coalition," came a voice over the communication system. "We offer assistance against our common enemy." Olivia hesitated. "How do we know this isn't a Council trick?" "The Council has dominated our civilization for centuries," Captain Krell replied. "We have waited for another species strong enough to challenge them. Your resistance provides that opportunity." 2 more groups of ships appeared, one with crystalline structures that sparkled in the sunlight, the other with dark, angular designs that seemed to blend with space itself. "We are the Valurians," announced the commander of the crystal ships. "And we represent the Nexus Confederation," said the leader of the dark vessels. "Like the Ardani, we have suffered under Council rule." Back on Earth, Dr. Laura Wilson received the unexpected transmissions with cautious optimism. "Ask for proof of their claims," she instructed Olivia. "We can't risk trusting unknown aliens." Before Olivia could respond, the Council fleet launched a massive attack. Energy weapons fired at the human ships, but the unexpected allies moved to intercept, their shields absorbing the brunt of the assault. "I believe that's your proof," Captain Krell noted dryly. In the Council flagship, Henry and Elixa navigated through maintenance corridors. She led him to a communication center. "From here, you can access the Council's secure database," she explained. "It contains information about their true intentions for Earth." Henry quickly downloaded data to a portable device. "Why are you really helping me?" Elixa's expression softened. "My homeworld was like Earth once. We resisted too, but we stood alone. You need not make our mistakes." The ship rocked again as Earth's defense grid intensified its attack. "We need to reach an escape pod," Elixa urged. Near Mars, the battle had turned. With their new allies, the human ships pressed their advantage. The Council vessels began to retreat toward Earth. "They're regrouping at your moon," warned the Valurian commander, calling for reinforcements from their central systems. Olivia contacted Earth. "Dr. Wilson, we've gained allies, but Council reinforcements are coming. What are your orders?" In Montana, Laura assembled her team. "Our intelligence suggests we have perhaps 48 hours before their main fleet arrives. We need to strengthen our defenses and integrate with our new allies' technology." Frank examined the technical data being transmitted from the alien ships. "This is incredible," he said. "Their systems complement ours in ways I wouldn't have thought possible." In Washington, world leaders met to discuss the unexpected developments. 3 alien species have joined our fight against the Council, Admiral Wright explained. "They claim to have been dominated by Council rule for centuries." President Garcia studied the information. "Can we trust them?" "They're fighting alongside our ships now," Wright replied. "And Captain Mills has escaped Council custody, with help from a Council member named Elixa." At that moment, Henry and Elixa reached an escape pod. As they launched away from the flagship, Henry saw Earth's defense grid fully engage, creating a shimmering barrier around the planet. "Your world is remarkable," Elixa said softly. "In all the Council's history, no species has resisted so effectively." Henry watched as the pod descended toward Earth. "We're just getting started." Olivia received the message and opened a channel to the Council flagship. "This is Commander Martins of Earth. We accept your surrender. Your remaining forces will retreat to Mars orbit immediately." The Council commander's voice was stiff with disbelief. "Acknowledged, Commander." As the Council fleet withdrew, Olivia looked out at Saturn's beautiful rings. All ships maintain pursuit. We follow them to Mars. The first major battle was won. But the war for Earth's freedom was not yet over. The red planet hung in space, a silent witness to history's turning point. The remains of the Council fleet orbited Mars, surrounded by Earth ships and their alien allies. The Resolution held position directly above the largest Council vessel. Commander Olivia Martinez straightened her uniform and checked her reflection in a small mirror. Today she would represent not just Earth, but humanity itself. "Ready, Commander?" asked her executive officer. Olivia nodded. "As ready as anyone can be." The shuttle carried her from the Resolution to the Council flagship. Captain Henry Mills waited for her in the docking bay, along with Elixa and representatives from the Ardani, Valyrians, and Nexus. "The Council's Supreme Commander is waiting," Henry said. "Admiral Wright and Dr. Wilson are joining by secure transmission." They walked through corridors lined with Council guards who stood rigidly at attention. Their once intimidating presence now seemed hollow. The Council chamber was vast, with a circular table dominating the center. The Supreme Commander Zar Kaltek sat opposite the entrance, his silver skin dull with fatigue. "Commander Martinez," he acknowledged as she entered, "you have achieved what was thought impossible." Olivia took her seat. "Not impossible, just improbable to those who underestimated us." The view screens activated, showing Admiral Wright and Dr. Wilson from Earth, along with President Garcia and other world leaders. "The terms are simple," Olivia began. "The Council will withdraw all forces from the Sol system. Earth will not be subject to any Council restrictions." Zar Kaltek's expression remained neutral. "And if we refuse?" Henry stepped forward. "The database Elixa helped me access has been transmitted to 17 worlds under Council control. They now know the truth, that the Council's claims of protection were always about resource extraction and dominance. Rebellions are already beginning," added the Ardani representative. "Your empire is crumbling." The Supreme Commander was silent for a long moment. "What do you propose instead?" "A new galactic alliance," Olivia said, "based on cooperation and mutual respect. Each species autonomous, but united for common goals." Laura Wilson spoke from Earth. "We're willing to share our technology with all members of this new alliance. Technology the Council tried to suppress, including the defense systems that defeated your weapons," added Admiral Wright. Zar Kaltek looked at each face around the table. "You understand nothing of galactic politics. There are dangers beyond your knowledge." "Then help us understand," Olivia suggested. "As equals, not subjects." After hours of negotiation, the agreement took shape. The Council would withdraw. Earth would lead the formation of a new alliance. Former Council worlds would be free to join or remain independent. 1 week later, President Garcia addressed the United Nations in New York. "Today marks a new chapter for humanity," he announced to thunderous applause. "We have earned our place among the stars through courage, innovation, and determination." Dr. Laura Wilson stood beside him, along with Captain Henry Mills, Elixa, and representatives from Earth's alien allies. "The technology developed during our resistance will now benefit all humanity," Laura explained. "Clean energy, advanced medicine, faster transportation. These are just the beginning." In orbit above Earth, Commander Olivia Martinez watched the broadcast from the Resolution's bridge. She had been promoted to Admiral, now commanding the Joint Defense Fleet that would protect the new alliance. "Orders, Admiral?" asked her executive officer. Olivia smiled. "Set course for Alpha Centauri. It's time we properly introduced ourselves to our neighbors." On Earth, the last Council observers departed. Elixa chose to remain as ambassador from her world. Henry, now a diplomat, would work alongside her to build relationships with other species. In Montana, Laura and Frank prepared for their next project, adapting alien technology to heal Earth's environment. "Do you think the Council was right to warn us?" Frank asked, as they watched the sunset from outside their facility. Laura considered the question. Perhaps, but warnings only work when both sides understand each other. The Council never truly understood humans, and our tendency to never listen. Frank smiled. Exactly, Laura replied. They saw it as defiance. But it's more than that. It's our drive to find our own way, make our own mistakes, and chart our own course. As night fell, new stars appeared in the sky. Not stars at all, but ships of the Galactic Alliance, a constellation of cooperation that would guide humanity into a future no one could have predicted. The Council's final warning had not been heeded, and the galaxy was better for it.